Imagine being in a courtroom where the tension is so great that a knife might cut it. And then hearing a dreadful secret that completely changes your perspective on loyalty and treachery. Yes, Camron, who has always been the king of calm, was caught off guard in the most shocking way possible when his buddy Chrissy revealed a fact so explosive that it seemed like a bomb exploded right in front of him. Such a controversy might destroy careers, friendships, and, most likely, even lives. The surprise is that this secret is causing Jim Jones, who is incarcerated, to experience unexpected repercussions. It's challenging and a whole nightmare because of Chrissy's surprise in court. But why is there a connection? This story of life and death will force you to reconsider everything you believe to be true about loyalty, betrayal, and the cost of keeping secrets. It's not just a drama in court. I promise you won't want to miss it because the reality is about to get unpleasant. The action in the courtroom was like a reality show, even if it was a stage. As the judge hit the gavel, the silent mutterings of the audience turned into loud gasps. And everyone's attention rightfully so shifted to Camron. He wasn't just another defendant or witness in a court case. He was Cameron Lampkin, a Harlem hero, one of the founders of Dipset, and the epitome of cool. However, it appeared that Chrissy Lampkin was handling the cards today rather than someone else. There was a noticeable tension, and Cameron's customary bluster gave way to an odd tenderness that is uncommon in the egocentric hip-hop world. His eyes grew wide as Chrissy unleashed a bombshell that rocked the room. Her comments were not only explosive, but also radioactive, and they could have destroyed everything. It was the kind of secret that could destroy friendships, careers, and the lives of some of the most well-known hip-hop musicians. It was more than just legal issues they encountered. But what precisely did Chrissy say? As you probably guessed, it wasn't your typical confession in court, but it was personal. It was the kind of betrayal that no one expected. Everyone knew that Camron and Jim Jones' relationship had problems prior to Chrissy's revelation, but nobody realized how severe they were. Going back a little, the music's glitz and glamour have presented a number of difficulties for Camron and Jim Jones' closest friends, business partners, and fellow Dipset fighters. These two were brothers in the struggle against their inner demons, not just friends. Even the broader public, though, was unaware of their relationship's gradual deterioration. Sources claim that the two people had different objectives, beliefs, and viewpoints. Jim Jones, with his more reserved but no less severe manner, and Camron, with his loud voice and unbridled opinions, had always been completely different in many respects. Chrissy Lampkin flipped the tables on Camron and the other courtroom attendees after years of supporting Jim. The room grew cold as Chrissy revealed something shocking that upended the bond between Camron and Jim Jones. The two men's disagreement was not merely a personal one. It might affect their careers in the long run. Like swords, Chrissy's remarks went straight to the heart of their brotherhood. Camron had no idea what had hit him, and the suddenness of it all caught him off guard. Despite the devastating evidence, what secret drove Chrissy to confess? Was there a reason Camron had lied about Jim's past? No, it was a reality that would show the foundation of these men's trust, and it was more nuanced than that. The enormity of the betrayal was so great that even Cameron's usual sardonic humor and confidence could not hide the shock he was feeling at the moment. He had been startled to learn how well he knew. How could they reveal such a private matter? Chrissy had no intention of giving up. Trust is what keeps everything together in this game, whether you're in the spotlight or on the streets. And when it's lost, the consequences might be fatal. Jim and Camron had collaborated to launch their company. But Chrissy's revelation revealed all that had been going on behind the scenes, and it didn't seem good. First, let's talk about the consequences. Chrissy's secret went haywire, affecting not only Camron and Jim, but the hip-hop culture as a whole. Finally, I'll find out what possibly have caused this whole disaster. Jim Jones was already behind bars when the news broke, because he was well known, particularly in the hip-hop scene, and everyone knew who he was. His situation there had previously been turbulent. While other prisoners would try to hide their identities, Jim couldn't because he was always being watched. However, the psychological ramifications of his confinement were considerably more harmful than the physical ones. In addition to the hardship of being away from his family, his business, and his life as a hip-hop mogul. This revelation had made his incarceration a dreadful ordeal. Jim Jones already had problems, and his imprisonment has simply made them worse. Jim could see everything he had fought so hard to build disintegrating before his very eyes. And these days, reputation and trust were more essential than physical threats. Now that he was in trouble, Camron was more concerned about humiliation than going to jail. Camron had established a strong reputation as a prominent hip-hop figure throughout the years, but his standing was abruptly questioned. How could he show his face again? What made him able to walk? A wild public response resulted from the intense feelings that fans, the media, and even other hip-hop artists had about Chrissy's secret. Some were prepared to take sides, supporting Camron's astonishment and disbelief, while others felt more sympathy for Jim, who was now fighting for his freedom and honor. They kept asking themselves, how could Chrissy have done this? Why now? And what does this indicate for Pet's future? But what everyone truly wanted to know was what would happen on social media. Fans couldn't stop talking about Chrissy's shocking revelation, and the ensuing chaos rocked the hip-hop scene from coast to coast. As Camron vs. Jim Jones trended, for days, fans argued over who was right and who was wrong amid all the comments and strong opinions. But the true motive behind Chrissy's actions was unknown. Was it a cry for attention or something more sinister? More frequent leaks simply made the debate worse over time, started to come to light. A purported source disclosed that Chrissy had been keeping this knowledge a secret for months of mute anger, months of boiling hostility, and one surprisingly tragic courtroom incident. According to these anonymous sources, Chrissy was determined not to see her guy become more entangled in the matter, because she had had enough of Camron and Jim Jones' constant disagreements. However, what was this secret? The rumors persisted. Despite the lack of evidence, some speculated that it was related to others, while others believed that Tit was more than devotion. It was treachery on a whole new level. Chrissy claims that despite being aware of some of Jim's illegal activity, Camron decided to overlook it. In the very competitive hip-hop industry, loyalty is highly valued. No one could be sure that Camron had crossed a line with Jim until she said the truth, and when she did, it was far worse than anybody could have imagined. Chrissy revealed that Camron had been concealing some very significant information about Jim's past. And the repercussions of those secrets were worse than anything Jim had experienced while he was a prisoner, even though it was all for money. And celebrity Chrissy claims that things got worse since Camron had been playing both sides. Despite being Jim's partner, he was making friends with those who wanted Jim to fail. Camron wasn't particularly eager to offer Jim money or emotional assistance during his incarceration because he had exploited his legal issues as a springboard for his profession. Camron's reported behind-the-scenes dealings with rival musicians and record firms might permanently damage Jim's legacy. Hip-hop fans were captivated. The topic abruptly changed from loyalty and trust to qualities that are crucial in the hip-hop industry, to which side you supported or which of the arguments was superior or more sincere. If Camron's stories were accurate, such values had been destroyed. The most incriminating evidence of Camron's alleged involvement in financial transactions is far murkier than anybody had anticipated. Even though stolen data claimed that he had landed rich endorsement deals with major brands while Jim was behind bars. In several of these contracts, Jim purportedly surrendered his most valuable assets, including his name, image, and likeness. In fact, while fighting for his life in prison, Camron is charged with using Jim's name to increase his renown. According to these records, several powerful businessmen urged Jim to sign deals that they knew would never have been reached if he had been free. They were able to persuade Camron to sign these contracts by offering him increased compensation and other benefits. This was first only conjecture and online rumors, but as more records were made public, the situation became increasingly apparent. The receipts were ugly when they arrived. Supporters began to question whether Camron was the laid-back hip-hop musician they loved, a friend they believed him to be, or simply another businessman trying to make a profit. More crucially, when did he learn? The audience was divided. Some Camron supporters stated that in the competitive world of hip-hop, you have to put your interests first. With him saying that if the accusations were true, he was just a snake. The two hip-hop heavyweights were obviously at odds, and it wasn't simply a disagreement either. It was the kind of betrayal that could bring down an entire empire. Lawyers began to answer. Would Jim be able to sue Camron for these alleged business dealings? Could Camron be held accountable for what seemed to be a significant breach of trust? It was acknowledged that this occurrence might have serious consequences for both men, even though the solution was not entirely evident. Behind the scenes, there was a larger conspiracy. According to rumors, that it became evident that Chrissy's court secret would have a long-lasting effect when the startling revelations died down. Fans, the media, and the firm began to realize that the issue was becoming worse every day. Was there a larger scheme behind Chrissy's attempt to persuade Jim to grant Camron authority over their joint ventures? Or had she simply grown tired of living in the shadow of the men she loved and decided it was time to tell the truth at any costs? Regardless of what each insider thought, Jim Jones's reaction to this circumstance was the most important. The world waited nervously as the clock approached the upcoming clash. Jim's quiet was more impactful than his comments. Despite some people's expectations that he would attack Camron on social media, although Jim's team's well-written comment, which hinted at an upcoming formal statement, did not satisfy fans, they decided not to add to the anxiety. They pushed Jim Jones to take action against the individual who had ruined his life and deceived him into becoming well-known and rich. The reports of legal and financial actions, however, the seriousness of the legal actions and potential criminal accusations only increased. This could get uglier than anything we've seen in hip-hop history, said one of the legal experts who began to predict that the matter would go to court. Betrayal like this doesn't just fade away. It leaves scars and what he perceived as betrayal. Or was it just another example of how the corporate side of the hip-hop industry can capitalize on broken hearts and destroyed relationships? Started to split into two factions, each fervently defending their idol. There was a great deal of back and forth. One group labeled Camron a rapacious opportunist and a traitor, while the other group called Jim a victim of the game. Then, as it became apparent that high-level corporate interests with a financial stake in Dipset's brand might have been involved, things took a darker turn. Was it a simple betrayal between friends, or was there a more complex covert plot of lies and manipulation? As the tension increased, a new, darker chapter in the story emerged. With news of an urgent meeting between their legal teams quickly replacing rumors of possible reconciliation negotiations between Jim and Camron. Jim and Camron began to feel pressured by money to make certain decisions, and there were rumors that Jim's team was receiving advice on how to deal with the consequences from some mysterious people who had extensive connections in the entertainment industry. Many others speculated as to what they might be discussing. Camron was largely quiet, at least in public, and lacked his usual bluster when Jim challenged him. And his supporters started to feel misled by the guy they had been supporting. 1. Viewer questioned, why is he playing nice with the person who stabbed him in the back? Others questioned, has Jim turned into simply another cog in the wheel, driven by those in positions of power beyond his comprehension? Or is he still the same street-hardened rapper who once stood tall and proud in the face of adversity, to be found and decided not to take advantage of the media frenzy? But there were rumors in his inner circle that Camron was getting ready to return as a performer and as the kingmaker of the entire New York rap scene. And some even said that labels looking to profit from the chaos had made him tempting offers. Once the crisis started, the story became more complicated, and Chrissy made the historic decision to elaborate in a widely publicized interview, saying that Camron's betrayal went it was impossible to avoid the overwhelming feeling that two of the most well-known hip-hop artists had deserted each other. And the media covered everything Chrissy said when she made these shocking new allegations public. She claimed that Camron had revealed more frightening personal information to other prominent industry figures who would stop at nothing to protect their interests, even if it meant breaking long-standing friendships, in addition to some questionable business dealings. Is this the end of Dipset? One headline said, "Has Camron betrayed his brother in order to gain power?" Read another. The world watched in awe as the effects came quickly. And many online users speculated that Camron's trading career was ending as his sales began to decline. As many looked to Jim Jones for help in overcoming this scandal, he gained popularity and his fan base grew. But many people knew deep down that Jim would always be haunted by the shadow of this betrayal. No matter how successful he became, Chrissy became famous on her own, and her judicial disclosure changed the course of events rather than just causing a media frenzy. It was obvious that Chrissy was at the center of it all. Some saw her as a cunning manipulator who was at the game, while others saw her as a hero for standing up for her partner at the time it was all over. Hip-hop culture had irrevocably changed because she had set off a chain of events that shocked Jim Jones and Camron. The story of Camron and Jim Jones is one of the most dramatic and contentious the industry has ever seen. And after the betrayal, the drama, and the lies all came together in that one courtroom, nobody would ever be the same. This is not a very distant story. If you're shocked by what you just heard, please let us know in the comments section below whether you prefer Camron or Jim. If you believe Chrissy is the true puppet master behind this whole thing, please subscribe to the channel. Did Camron mislead Jim about the large sum of money? Or is the story not as complete as we think it is? What actually happened behind closed doors won't be known until later. And it might be darker than we ever thought. The truth always finds a way to surface. So stay tuned because you'll want to be here to witness all of the shocking revelations that are coming up. This is just the beginning. We'll be looking at each new event as it happens. I can assure you that this complex situation will spark more discussion down the road. Turn and twist.